Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the T4R podcast. This is season 3, episode number 2, topic of transforming lives. My name is John. I am a resident of Saha and a member of the T4R scrutiny panel. That's my introduction. I'm going to let David and Mary introduce themselves.
Lovely. Thank you, John. Welcome, everybody, to, as John says, season 3, episode number 2. My name is David. I'm currently chair of the T4R scrutiny panel.
Hi there. Thanks, John. Thanks, David. It's Mary here again. I'm the Customer Insight Officer for Saha, and our team deals with everything to do with resident involvement.
Thank you very much, Mary. Well, today we are going to go straight in and meet our very special guest, Jill Cook, Head of Housing, etc. I'll let her explain because I don't know. So, hello, Jill.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me. I'm Jill Cook, and as you said, you're quite right. My title is Head of Housing, and that's Head of Housing, both supported and general needs housing. And within that role, I'm also the safeguarding lead for Saha.
Thank you. So, Jill, could you tell me what your role is within Saha?
So, my team, if you like, we manage all of the supported housing schemes, the agency managed schemes, the general needs schemes. So all of the, in your last podcast, Mary talked about the 4,000 properties that we have in Saha, and she talked about the different types of properties and what we use them for. All of that comes within my team. So we have a number of supported housing schemes that work with people who have specific needs or specific vulnerabilities. So they may have been rough sleepers, have drug or alcohol issues. They may be young people. They may be care leavers. They may be fleeing domestic violence, so they have mental health issues. So a wide variety of needs that they need support with to enable them to live independently. So that's a huge part of the work that we do. And then aside of that, we have our agency managed schemes where we own the building and we do lots of work around the building and we do all that housing management. But another organisation delivers support for people with similar issues that we deliver support to in our own schemes. And then we have our general needs properties, which are just our regular houses or flats, mostly for single people, that are managed by the housing officers and our general needs housing team. So all of that comes under my team and within my remit.
Thank you. Mary, take it over to you to ask a few of your questions.
Yes, John, thanks for that, Jill. I was just thinking about, relating this back to transforming lives. And you already mentioned the last podcast that we did. I quoted in that one our mission statement, which is to transform lives by providing solutions to homelessness and enabling people to develop and achieve their full potential. I was just wondering, in light of that, how transforming lives actually impacts on you and your team and how you maybe work through that mission statement.
Okay, so for me, you'll often hear me say this when I'm talking about my team and the services that they deliver, it's where the magic happens. So it's where the real work is done to enable somebody to transform their lives, particularly when we're talking about the supported housing that we deliver. We might have somebody come in to one of our schemes who really struggles with lots and lots of issues, but by the time they leave us, they're able to live independently and hopefully they've managed some of those issues. So they might have been able to manage their drug or alcohol or offending behaviour. They might have been able to learn how to live independently and manage a tenancy. And then, by the time they've left us, hopefully we've had an impact on their ability to do all of that and then obviously transform their life. As our mission statement says, that's what we do.
Great. That's such a lovely little quote where the magic happens. And it sounds like a very rewarding job, actually, when you say it like that. Do you think that's how your staff feel about it?
Absolutely. The team are, I've never met a team that's so passionate about the work that they do. Everybody who works for our frontline services, and I'll call them our frontline team really, because they are the people at the hard edge of stuff really making a difference. they all do that because that's what they want to do. They want to make a difference in people's lives. They want to have an impact. They're not coming to work just because it's a job. They're coming to work because they absolutely want to make a difference in the work that they do.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, it's lovely to hear somebody talk about it so passionately as well, Jill. So thanks for that. I'm going to hand over to David because I think he's got a few more questions, but thank you very much.
Yeah, lovely. Thanks, Mary. Welcome, Jill. Lovely to have you with us today, and thank you for taking the time out of, I know, your busy schedule to speak to us. One of the things that talked about where the magic happens, and I know Saha, for example, take very seriously the fact that things perhaps could be done better. So in your role and within your team and their experience, what areas of improvement would you like to see?
Gosh, you can always do something better, can't you? So no matter how good you think you are at something, there's always room for improvement. And again, I think there are lots of organisations that deliver supported housing offers like Saha, but we need to be that organisation that is the difference, that makes the difference. So we need to be that one step ahead. And what's really important to me is that we are really able to see the impact that our services are having on the lives of the people that we're working with. And to do that, we are shifting our approach a little bit. So traditional supported housing services will look at working with people who come into their schemes, and they'll ask questions like, where did things go wrong in your life, or what happened when there was a problem in your life, or why were you offending? And they'll focus on negative behaviours. Whereas what we want to do and what we're doing in Saha is we're shifting that to take a real positive approach. So we're focusing on the positive aspects of people's lives, the strengths that people have, and kind of working from there. So we're creating a real approach that looks at building around people's individual assets, people's individual strengths, and creating that, helping them along that journey so that they're not looking at things in a negative way. We're not talking about everything that's gone wrong all of the time. We're talking about what's good and how we can improve on that. And what we're doing to make sure that happens properly is we kind of need to think about people coming into our schemes have often experienced some kind of trauma or have had some kind of issue in their lives. And that means that we have to adapt the way we work with them to kind of take account of that. So again, you will often see some schemes who work with people who have these issues, but these kind of issues come out in the behaviours of people that we're working with. But we know that somebody might be displaying those behaviours because of a previous traumatic experience that we've had. And what our services are moving towards is a way that instead of just kind of automatically going, oh, right, we need to give you a warning for that, or we need to kind of challenge that behaviour, are working around that and seeing, well, how can we turn that into a positive rather than just focusing on that negative all the time.
Lovely, thank you very much. That's wonderful. It's great to see the passion that you bring to your role and to your team's role. So thank you very much for that. A question that I'd like to ask is, the T4R scrutiny panel recently reviewed letters sent to tenants regarding rent arrears. When we looked at that area a little while ago, the panel felt that perhaps the wording of the letters that sent out by Saha didn't actually send the right message. We proposed some changes, and have those changes that we proposed had any impact upon your department's dealings with your tenants?
So I don't know whether the changes have had a direct impact, but we certainly haven't had any complaints about the letters that have gone out. It's hard, isn't it, when you part of our bread and butter really is, particularly in our general needs schemes, it's about collecting rent and making sure that, we talked earlier about what we wanted to improve. And one of the things that we're working on in the general needs side of things is a tenancy sustainment strategy. So a way that when we have people move into our general needs properties, that enables them to stay. So we lose quite a number of our people because they can't manage their rent arrears, so they end up in arrears and in debt, or they don't engage properly, create antisocial behaviour problems, and they end up having to move out for whatever reason. And our tenancy sustainment strategy is looking at how can we prevent that? So part of that is the way that we stop people getting into debt and stop people getting into rent arrears. So we're shifting that approach to a preventative approach rather than a let's deal with something when it's already gone wrong. Let's stop it going wrong in the first place. So that's really positive. And I think over the last 6 months, which is the length of time that I've been here with Saha, we have seen quite a significant reduction in the rent arrears. So something's going right. We are doing stuff right. But again, you can always improve on that. I think we probably lose about 20% of the people that come and move into our properties move out again for whatever reason. And, that's not good for us. We want to keep sustainable communities. We want people to move into our properties and be happy there, to create homes there, to be part of that community. And that's what that tenancy sustainment policy will focus on.
That's great. You talked about sustainable communities, and one of the things that's come up fairly recently is the Tenants Charter Together for Residents. Has that actually had any immediate impact upon you and your team?
So I think that particularly in our supported schemes, we do an awful lot of involvement activities with our tenants. So the Tenants Charter isn't actually a massive big shift for us. We're doing a lot of what the Tenants Charter expects anyway. But I think we should be going further, to be honest. I know I am passionate about this. I am passionate about my job and and the work that I do. I started off in this not in this organisation, but in supported housing like 25 years ago as a frontline support worker. I was an outreach worker working with people on the streets. And it's really important to me to make sure that we're creating services that are relevant to the people who are going to be using them. And I think we should be talking about co-producing services rather than just involving people. It shouldn't be a tick box exercise. We shouldn't be doing this just because it's something that some charter says that we need to do it. It's something that actually, I'm not using these services. I'm not living in our properties. And it's really important that we co-produce what we do to make sure that it's relevant and accessible and that we're doing the right thing.
Fantastic. That's really, really great to hear. As you know, John and I are part of the T4R scrutiny panel, and one of the things that comes out in the Tenants Charter is working together. And John will know that very often we use the phrase together. It's a two-way street when you're dealing with things like this. So what can the T4R scrutiny panel and hopefully other engaged tenants do to assist you and your team?
So for me, it's about moving away from us coming to you and saying, can you help me with this? So that's part of it, obviously, and part of that whole process is we've got loads of policies and processes and things going on that we'll need support with, making sure that we've got that right, making sure that works properly. But also, I want people to help us be engaged in running our services, tell us what our services need to look like, particularly in the supported schemes. For example, I want to be moving towards a place where our residents are saying, this is the offer. So this is what you should be delivering. This is what a scheme should look like. This is what we need you to get funding to deliver for us. I want people to be engaged in interviewing the support workers, the housing officers, so people who come into work for us, particularly within my team where there's a front-facing role, and part of that role is working closely with our residents and tenants. Then, residents and tenants should be interviewing those people. They should be helping create the job descriptions. They should be telling me what skills and experience they're expecting in the people who are kind of taking up those roles. I also want to develop some kind of peer mentor process, peer reviewing process for our residents and tenants to be able to check in on our quality. So rather than us just kind of go, well, here's some information for you, here's some statistics for you, here's a policy for you. I want people to be able to come into our schemes and our services and be able to ask their own questions and then say, well, actually, I don't think that's very good, and I think you should improve it by doing this, or actually, I think that's a fantastic way of doing it, and let's roll it out and do it in other places. So I think, rather than where I want to get to is a place where I'm not asking for help, that people are coming and telling me, this is what we want you to do.
That's great. So one other point that's just popped into my mind is, how do you see your department, perhaps say 18 months' time, in light of what you've said today?
Right, okay. So at the moment, we're just writing a supported housing strategy, and part of that is over the last few years, we've actually closed some supported housing projects, and that's because we haven't, as an organisation, been necessarily in a position to or been able to bid for new services or kind of develop more schemes. Now, I think we do some absolutely amazing transformative work on our supported housing schemes in particular, and I want to be able to do more of that. So that strategy and that approach is looking at how we can, first of all, make sure that we keep everything that we've got, so consolidate the services that we've already got, because it's quite a competitive environment in supported housing. We're commissioned to deliver services, and they go out to tender, and other organisations tender for them, and that's a competitive process. So we might not always win them, although we should be in a good position when we're already delivering on it. But that doesn't always work like that. So the first part of that would be to make sure that we keep what we've got. But then the next part of that will be to win bids, so to be able to develop more of these services. We do fantastic work. Let's do some more of it. And then again, for the general needs side, where, we've got a lot of properties and we've got a lot of people living in those properties, I want to make sure that, again, we know that we're housing some people who also maybe have some support needs or who are vulnerable, but they're not necessarily getting the support they need because they live in a general needs property. I want to make sure that our tenancy sustainment policies and processes pick that up and make sure that people who are living in those schemes get support that they need if they need it, but that we're enabling that community to be sustainable by making sure that people can stay in those tenancies and have that home for a long-term home.
That's absolutely wonderful. You mentioned, obviously, the fact that Sahar and your team are, from your experience, are doing fantastic work, and I love the quote that Mary's already picked up is where the magic happens. So as a very last question from me is, what's the best part of your role?
Gosh, the best part of my role, I'm not able to do at the moment because of COVID, I'm working from home in my spare bedroom that's now turned into an office. But the best part of my role normally would be that part where I'm going out and meeting our residents and our tenants and, talking to them directly and seeing and hearing about the difference that our services are making in their lives, and hearing and seeing the changes that happen for people when they come to us. So people come to us, they have no confidence, and they have no skills, and they don't have any self-assurance. They don't feel comfortable in their own skin, and they've got lots of issues. But then 6 months, 12 months later, that's all changed. And and it's that bit that is the best part of it for me, that we've been able to make that difference for people.
Well, that's really, really great. Thank you ever so much for sharing that with me. That's all from me. I'm just going to pass you back to John, just in case John's got any questions.
No, I haven't got any questions. I think everything that I've thought of has been answered. It's really nice to have had an insight as to what you actually do, Jill. I've never heard anything quite like it. You know your stuff. That's all I can say, which is really pleasing to hear. Mary, anything more you want to ask?
Not really a question, I don't suppose. I think I would just like to say, Jill, it's really lovely to hear a head of services speaking so positively and so in such a customer and resident focused way. Thank you so much. And I just get the feeling that the customer insight team is going to have a shed more load of work to do. So whilst I'm thanking you, I'm also thinking, oh gosh, okay, we better get going on that then.
Yeah, absolutely. Get ready, Mary. There's lots of stuff coming your way.
Well, that's brilliant. I'm pleased, and I'm sure that both John and David have found it really, a very positive interview. Thank you. I'm very much also looking forward to our next few podcasts where hopefully we're going to be speaking to some of the staff that you've already kind of alluded to. So we're hoping to speak to some housing officers from general needs, some maybe managers of over 55s schemes, and also some managers and support workers from directly managed services. So I'm also really looking forward to them telling us on the ground how that feels.
That'd be great. It'd be great if you could get some of the residents on as well from those services, particularly. That'd be really good.
Yeah, absolutely.
On behalf of all of us here today, Jill, I just want to say a big thank you for, as I said, sharing in such a positive way. And I really know that those people that will listen will have gained a great deal of benefit, as I have as well. So thank you very, very much indeed.
Thank you for having me.
And hopefully people will listen to that podcast. That's one of the most inspiring I've heard in a while. So thank you again for myself, Jill. Now, I think we're at the end of our podcast for another week. So unless there's anything more from you, David?
No, not from me. Thank you very much. And we'll see you all next time.
Mary?
See you next time. It's been great. Thank you.
Okay, so it's a big goodbye from me. Goodbye.
Bye.